The original version of the Godslayer PVE uses Auto Scream to reach unreal amounts of damage. However, there's one big issue with getting Auto Scream pre-shrine. You need to kill Kaido at power 8. While you can buy a carry to make this easier, I thought that I would give everyone an alternative to the insanely high damage but difficulty of version 3. This version of V3 will replace Auto Scream with Ghost, reducing the amount of damage you can take by quite a bit since you get iframes when you dodge an attack. This will reduce the damage of the build by a little bit, but make it much safer to use. So if you're less confident in PvE, this build is amazing for you. This build can get close to or even over 500 HP in some cases, since we're stacking a ton of HP talents, as well as various damage resistances, and ways to get iframes like Ghost. Not to mention we still get the healing from Conditioned Runner, which is pretty crazy on this build. The video today will cover the stat order, required cards, mantras and their modifiers, as well as the best weapon and enchant for the build. If you find this build useful or want to see more builds like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Discord to let me know you want to see more. Alright, so hopping over to the build maker. For the race, I want to go with Vesperian on this build. Although the race doesn't really matter, you can go with anything else, Vesperian just makes the build a little more optimal. So for your starting stats, you want to put the most you can into Fortitude, then put 1 point into Charisma, Willpower, Agility, and Strength. You'll have 1 more point left over. It doesn't matter where you put it, so I'm just going to put 2 into Strength. Then for your elements, you want to get 6 Iron Sing and 5 Flame Charm. These should be your starting stats. As for your boons, I like to go with Scrapper and Pack Mule, just so you can carry more stuff and it makes the build a little more consistent to progress. Your floor is Simple. You're going to get another floor off Shrine of Order later, plus Simple doesn't do anything past power 20, so it's a very good floor if you plan to use this build long term. For your origin, Deepbound obviously. Your outfit is Prophet's Cloak in the end, just because of the extra mantra pen. Oath is going to be Oathless, and your belt can be basically anything. Although if you want the most damage, you of course want to go for crazy slots. So once you start the build, you want to go to 30 Iron Sing immediately, just so you can get Metal Ball early, then go to 40 Flame Charm for all the talents. From there, you go back to 50 Iron Sing for 3-star mantras, then 40 Fortitude, and finally you go to 75 Iron Sing. You're 1 point away from powering up, so what you want to do now is escape depths. Don't pick Vow of Thorns so you have an Enforcer trial. You can either kill it yourself, or you can buy a carry on the PVE carries Discord I have linked down below. It's pretty cheap and will generally only be 1 to 2 enchants or 1000 notes. So while you're in Overworld, you need to do a few very important things. With your 40 Fortitude, you need to go get the Worshipper's Shield at Ethiron. Try and get a 3-star if possible. From there, the NPC right next to the shield can give you the Plepsky's Will talent for 40 Flame Charm. This just means you can get more ether back from eating stuff like Umbral Obsidian. It's very useful if you're in a pinch. The next thing is you can get 3 extra talent hands and do mantra quest if you're missing a lot of cards. I'll leave a video also linked down below that shows you how to get 3 extra talent hands when you power up. And the last thing is you need to get Frost Draw at Ethiron. Once you do all that, you can safely head back down to depths. Invest your last point to heavy weapon to get to power 10. Before you Shrine of Order, you need to make sure that you unbound your Iron Sing for an extra 10 HP on this build. And then we're going to Shrine of Order. Once you Shrine of Order, you want to make sure that you have 17 into Iron Sing and Flame Charm, as well as 19 into Fortitude. The rest of the stats don't matter. You'll get a floor off Shrine of Order. It doesn't really matter what you get, although I think Glutton is probably the best thing to get, since Carnivore will keep your hunger topped up most of the time. Now we're going to go to 40 Agility immediately to get Ghost, then 20 Strength for Spine Cutter, 25 Fortitude for Condition Runner, 20 Willpower, 25 Charisma, then we're going to go to 75 Frost and 75 Weapon. Then once you unbound both of these with another boss kill, you go to 80 Frost Draw for level 5 mantras and cap it off at 85 Heavy Weapon. And these are the stats you should end up with on the build. For the traits, I'm actually going to go 4 Song Chant, 4 Proficiency, and 4 Vitality. This is a very good spread to go for this build, since you're getting very good weapon damage, mantra damage, and you get 40 extra HP, which is super nice. Now let's go to the talents. I'm only going to be discussing the major talents you need for this build, so no extra extra stuff purely for elemental intensity like this. So we're going to get Conditioned Runner, Ghost, and Phoenix Flames on this build. Phoenix Flames itself isn't super required, but Immolation definitely is. And then we're going to go Phantom Edge for the extra M1 range. This isn't super helpful, but you'll definitely notice Phantom Edge playing a part. Also, you will see a bunch of extra talents just because of this Iron Singer stuff, so I'll remove them as I go, so the count's a little more accurate in the end. Now we're going to go Spine Cutter for the extra M1, Fishman and Exoskeleton for HP. Then I recommend getting Loot Skipper, just because getting Dread Breath on a build is super useful, since you can build up chain stacks fast, and Dread Breath is very useful for Ferryman. But you don't have to go Loot Skipper. You want to get Master's Work, just for a little more damage. Then we're going to go Scuba Drowner, Blood Iron Spirit, and Speed Demon. Now Kickoff and Time to Go, Expose Durability, Flame Within, Grand Feast for some more Ether, Tempo, Blood, and health from killing enemies, which is super useful if you're in a close call. Giant Slayer and Tough Love. Then you want to go Charged Return. This pairs super well with Flame Within and can give you 40% more M1 damage. Cauterize Wounds to reduce blood loss. Now I'm going to get Frostra Unbounded. Obviously, this isn't an actual talent that you'll get, but I'm just putting it for the HP stat at the end. Then we'll go Orbital Ice for some damage reduction. Now, Crystal is really up to what you prefer. This can be annoying, but Crystal undoubtedly does a ton of damage, so you can either take Crystal or leave Crystal depending on your preference. I like to go with Cryosis, even though this is an elemental intensity card. Having less ether drained while on ice is kinda useful. We'll go for Iron Sing Unbound as well, just for the plus 10 HP. Remember, you're getting this for free. Don't go Eruption on this build, just because you want to be able to burn Chaser so you can grip him. Then go Breathing Exercises and Old Habits Die Hard for more HP. Metal Eater, so you can cast Metal Armament for free if needed. Health Pack and Ether Kit, as well as Armor Conserver. These three are always good. You want to go Flaming Flourish, so you can light Chaser on fire and grip him. Then Matador, and for the final card, you want One-Handed Training, so you can actually use the shield. Now, it says 48 talents, but remember, it's a little bit lower, because some of the stuff here, like Frostra Unbound, is free stuff that you'll always get. So this build shouldn't be too hard to get first try, and you can always cut off Phoenix Flames if you really need. Now, we're also going to get the Oathless card and just a few other quest mantras, so I can show you just how much HP we're getting in a minute. Alright, but now let's head over to the mantras section. We're going to start with Ice Cubes, Frozen Servants, and Warden's Blades. These are on pretty much all of my PvE builds because they do a ton of damage. We're going to go with Metal Armament. Normally I would say go with Caltrops, but unless you want to swap your mantras around, you can deal without it, since we don't really have room on this build. Go Metal Ball, Ice Skates, and Glacial Arc for really good layer 2 mobility. And then for your support mantra, go with Taunt, just because this mantra makes enemies take more damage. So that means that you can bypass the damage cap and deal 185% damage to monsters. As for modifying your mantras, I generally put 1 to 3 Cloudstones on Warden's Blades and put max Cloudstones on Frozen Servants. Everything else here I don't modify. Coming over to your weapon, it's pretty obvious what we're going to use. We're going to use a 3-star Enforcer's Axe. As for the enchant, you can either go with Detonation or Grim on this build. Since the mantra damage isn't as insane as the other variation of V3, the difference between Detonation and Grim is a little bit closer, but Grim against Ethiron is pretty insane. Now we're going to equip the best rings. These are what you want, as well as an Ishin's ring, and you'll be getting 2 max damage. As you can see, we are dealing almost 1300 damage in M1 with a Grim Enforcer's Axe. However, if you decide to go crazy slots, you can bump that up to almost 1600 damage per M1, which is pretty insane. Now let's look at the summary. As you can see, we are gaining 142 health, which is pretty crazy. And keep in mind, you're also getting damage reduction from stuff like Orbital Ice and Exoskeleton too. Not to mention, you get iframes whenever you dodge something because of Ghost. So this build is incredibly tanky and consistent for layer 2s. Not to mention, because of some of the mantras, it's also insanely fast at doing them. With the version 2 of this build, which had very similar stats to this, I was already easily one-cycling Chaser and Ethiron, so you can definitely do it on this build while being super tanky. So it's up to you whether you want to use this version of my Godslayer PvE build with Ghost and a little more tankiness, or if you want to use the other variation, which is a little harder to progress but has auto screen Scream for maximum damage. Either way, if you want to get either version of the Godslayer PvE, make sure you join my Discord, because I'm going to be cooking up some even more insane builds in the future. And hey, if you decide to progress this build, let me know how you find it. I hope you guys have enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out some of the PvE content, and I'll see you next time.